Dead for Reals.
Hey, it's Chris O'Neill.
And Adam Perry.
All right, we've got a new movie that's out in theaters. Probably won't be out for too long. It's called Borderlands, and I had to read this a few times. Directed, written, and co-produced by Eli Roth.
So we got a gore fest?
No.
What?
I know.
Are you sure that says Eli Roth?
Yeah, and this reminds me of another Cate Blanchett film with Jack Black back in 2018, directed by Eli Roth. The House with a Clock in Its Walls. I can never remember that title because to me that's too long of a title.
That is a long title.
But yeah, I mean, this one, The House with a Clock in Its Walls, a young orphan aids his magical uncle in locating a clock with the power to bring about the end of the world. So there's some darkness, like most Eli Roth movies, but because I'm like a PG-13 movie directed by Eli Roth. That's the only other.
That just doesn't fit.
I know that's the only other movie directed by Eli Roth that I can think of that, kids your son's age may be able to potentially
it's like
watch.
Putting pineapple on pizza. It's like,
well, I used to like pineapple on pizza. Thank you.
You would.
Oh, of course. Anyway, hot air aside,
yeah.
Borderlands is the new sci-fi action comedy from Eli Roth. It's PG-13. And by the way, don't forget to subscribe, like our channel so you never miss an episode, because we do try to upload at least one episode per week. And if you are a subscriber, well, you'll get notified when we post a new episode. And just so you know, we're also on social media. We're on X. We're on Facebook, Instagram, at Scareford Reels is our handle. So reach out to us that way. So let's talk about the video game first of all, because Adam, did you know anything about Borderlands back in 2009, the video game?
Honestly, Chris, no. I'm not a big video game guy. Like I said, growing up, once you got past to Nintendo 64, which was right after like that, I'm lost after that.
Well, you made it a lot farther along than I did, because my parents got the original Nintendo, and I do remember, was it the Super Nintendo that came out after it? Yeah,
there was the original NES, and then the Super NES, and then Sega came out with the Sega Genesis.
Mm-hmm.
And
do you have a Sega?
I had we were Nintendo kids, so
gotcha.
we had all the Nintendo systems. Like you said, we had the original, the Super, and then the Nintendo 64, and that's where my gaming kind of came to an end.
Came to an end, huh?
Yeah, and it wasn't really like Mortal Kombat's fun, Super Mario Brothers is fun, but I had better things to do.
Wow. Well, we're not insulting video gamers here, because
if gaming's your thing, God bless you.
I get into arguments with people here at my work who think, I don't have time to watch movies. Yeah. So when people say things like that, I don't have time to play video games, it's very insulting, though.
It's not that I didn't have time to play video games.
You didn't want to use that time.
I had stuff I'd rather do, like learn to play the guitar.
Right.
Oh, focus on my high school wrestling.
Right.
So
right. Well, all I'm saying is when you explain it that way, it sounds a lot better than I didn't have time to play video games. Yeah. Well, that's why people get on me all the time. I get insulted every day when people say, "Oh, I don't have time to watch movies." Well, you do, because I hear them binge watching, shows, and some of them are like for instance, the Stranger Things, the last season of Stranger Things, you had episodes that almost ran 3 hours long.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, you binge watch Stranger Things, you don't have time for a movie, I call BS. You just don't want to watch a movie. It's okay if you say that. I'm not going to get offended, but it's alluding to the fact that I'm wasting my time watching movies. That I get taken offensive. It's just like anyone would, Yeah. Why are you wasting your time watching Halloween movies? Well, Chris, why are you wasting your time watching Raging Bull? It's like, it's the same thing. That's what I choose to watch with my time, and time is valuable. I understand that. As long as you're doing stuff that makes you happy and doing what you want to do, no problem with it. But anyway, we're
sorry if I pissed off any gamers. But yeah.
But Borderlands, I guess Gearbox Software was the one who developed it along with Telltale Games. I don't know much about Borderlands because, again, I didn't play a lot of video games. Again, after the first Nintendo, I'm lost.
Yeah,
because you explained things I had no idea. Well, like I heard of Sega Genesis. I remember Sega.
Yeah. It's like we were talking. It seems like it's more common now to see a video game based movie, but they've tried, and very few have been successful, and the very few that we come to mind that are successful right now.
There's only 3 that we could think of off the top of our heads.
Yeah.
Okay, Resident Evil is the longest running video game sequels, to movie franchise. And at the time, it was the most successful until Sonic the Hedgehog came out.
Sonic 1 and 2 came out.
Those they were like within the past 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, and then
you were telling me that Sonic was first a video game and then an animated TV series, right?
Yes.
If I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. So, if you grew up in the early 90s and 80s, usually the consoles came with a game in the console. For Nintendo, you always got Super Mario,
right.
And Genesis, Sega. You got Sonic the Hedgehog, which was their answer to Super Mario. So it's the same thing, and both of them had their cartoons and stuff like like Mario even had Captain Lou Albano playing Mario.
Oh, remember that awful movie that came out in the
it wasn't
90s.
A movie, it was a TV show. But and then
that's right, it was a show. And then they had the movie with Bob Hoskins
and John Leguizamo.
Oh, poor Bob Hoskins, man. I mean, I know he made a crap load of money off of that, so he didn't care.
He did it for his kids as well. It's on.
Yeah. But after like an amazing film like The Long Good Friday, and then you were in the brilliant Mona Lisa, and then a lot of fun to watch in Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
Right.
I mean, to go from that to that.
Well,
but like
when your kid says, "Dad, you need to go do Mario," okay. A lot of actors have done that.
Well, Richard Harris with his granddaughter played Dumbledore. He didn't really want to do it, but
another one that
Christian Bale did the same thing with Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
that was terrible.
When Tommy Lee Jones did,
Batman Forever.
He did Two-Face for his kids. Raul Julia did Street Fighter for
his
Bison,
last movie.
He did that for his kids.
Yeah.
So, it's not uncommon for successful actors who you would never expect to see in a movie like that to do it just because their kid wants to see
that
them
was
do it.
Another failed video game.
Street Fighter.
Yeah.
Listen.
Which was inspired by the Sonny Chiba film, believe it or not.
Yeah.
But anyway, it was the Super Mario Brothers. We have Sonic the Hedgehog, and we have Resident Evil. So far, those are the only 3 that we can think of.
Yeah, the new Mario Brothers that came out last year.
Yeah, we should specify the animated film with Chris Pratt and Jack Black.
Massive hit. Yeah,
that was huge. I think close to $1 billion, if not so worldwide.
And the sequel's coming out next year. So
and you're on top of that because of the kids.
So I have a 9-year-old who is that's his world. That's his life. So
those are the only 3 I can think of that have been really successful, though, because they've done a lot. They've done so many video game to movie adaptations. We could talk for 5 hours probably about that.
Yeah, another terrible movie that Doom, starring The Rock, was one of his first movies.
It was the first one, first major one after The Rundown.
Yeah, and it was his first movie after he semi-retired from wrestling too.
Yeah. And to this day, The Rundown is the only movie I've actually somewhat enjoyed The Rock in. Every other movie has been a disaster, in my opinion. But I'm in the minority because he's a huge superstar. But I've tried watching other movies with The Rock, and The only one that's entertaining is The Rundown, mainly because of Christopher Walken.
Okay. All right. Well, we're talking Borderlands.
Yeah,
today.
Borderlands.
We're not talking the great one.
Well, and just like Sonic the Hedgehog and Super Mario Brothers, Borderlands actually has quite the interesting following. They've done a lot of different games. It was released in 2009, the first one. You know, it's got the traditional first-person shooter gameplay with character building elements found in role-playing games. And Gearbox called the game a role-playing shooter. Okay. So, in addition to that, I guess there was a remastered version for PC, PlayStation 4, Xbox One. Wow, Borderlands Game of the Year Edition. That was releasing like 5 years ago, Adam, back in 2019.
Wow.
And they've had like several sequels and spin-offs, and they've had soundtracks released for Borderlands. There's even a comic book series. There's like 5 comic book series. Oh, more than that. There's tons and tons of Borderlands stuff, though. So, did you know any of these were a franchise?
Honestly,
Borderlands is a franchise. They even have books. They seriously have books.
I mean, that's cool. Like I said, I'm so disconnected from
same here.
The video game culture. That's awesome. That's really cool. And if you're a fan of the video game, I mean, you now to have a movie. That's incredible.
If you read about, I mean, if you're already a follower of Borderlands, the game, you already know all of the background on it. But if you don't, there's a huge amount of information and lore. It's pretty daunting if you're not already like into the actual world of Borderlands. I mean, so it's just, what do you need to know if you're like me, you don't know anything about the video games. You walk in blind. You're a fan of Cate Blanchett like I am. Well, again, it got developed in 2009. The same developer behind Duke Nukem. I'm sure you've heard about that video game.
Yeah.
I've heard about that one. But yeah, it's a looter shooter kind of shoot 'em up, bang up kind of thing. Like you've played those shooter games before. It's kind of like that. You and 3 friends can explore a vast open world, take on all sorts of enemies, find better, more expensive gear. It's very typical of that kind of. It's got that cliche element.
Yeah.
I have a hard time saying that about video games since I know nothing about them, but video games have their cliches too. So, but yeah, each Borderlands game has a large cast of playable characters to choose from. They all have their own. Each character has their own unique personality, weapon preferences to make them distinct. Now, the thrill of playing the games with friends has helped them persevere over time. So, I mean, I'm not going to get into the whole 2009 plot line. Again, you can read about that online. But it does take place, just like the movie, in this far-off satirical version of the future. It's Pandora, not to be confused with Avatar, which is one of the most overrated movies I've ever seen. But how does Borderlands, the movie, relate to the games? That's probably the big question. It's actually got its own original story rather than being like a direct adaptation, which I think that ticked off a lot of the video game fans, from what I understand.
I mean, kind of like Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes.
I was just thinking here, Chris, we're sitting here playing kind of stupid to...
that's a fourth.
And a couple months ago, we did Five Nights at Freddy's.
Yes. Well, but the reason why we forget that is because it literally it didn't really seem like, other than a few character name likenesses, it really didn't feel like a video game adaptation. Yeah. It dealt with struggling, PTSD, loss of family. You can listen to that episode. We really delved into it. Again, Willy's Wonderland felt more like a video game movie, which it was kind of loosely based off the... But again, we discussed that in the episode. But yes, to be technical, 4 video game to movie adaptations have been successful. If we're leaving out any, I'm sure you'll let us know. But yeah, Borderlands has its own original story rather than being a direct adaptation of one of the games. I mean, it does have some of the good-hearted mercenaries that are found in the game. You've got Lilith, played by Cate Blanchett, and you've got Roland, played by Kevin Hart. I guess the other members of this particular movie did not appear until the second game, or I guess they weren't even playable at all. You've got the chaotic teenager, Tiny Tina. There was this one of the reformed psychos, which are like the mindless grunts, the big, strong ones that could easily be controlled. Well, one of the reformed psychos helps out, and along with a neurotic archaeologist played by Jamie Lee Curtis, and you've got the chatty robot Claptrap voiced by Jack Black. Now, the plot in this whole character lineup may be unique, but the tone and looks of the game, Eli Roth still tried to be true to the video game. They're still kind of, even though they're kind of artificial, to say the least, at least from what I've seen comparison stills, it looks somewhat like the video game. At least the settings are. You know, got the bright colors, you got the enemies. So he's got a lot of the same kind of things, even though it's not based upon any of the games. So let's talk about the plot of the movie. Again, it all takes place on Pandora, not the James Cameron Pandora. But we've already talked about how Kevin Hart plays Roland. He's kind of a soldier, but he's gone rogue. He kidnaps the teenager, Tiny Tina, with the help of a reformed psycho, as I mentioned. And this is how the movie starts off. So it's kind of disarming because, like, you're thrown into the world. Technically, we were thrown into the world with Star Wars, but you didn't feel like you were lost watching Star Wars.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This one, it doesn't make any sense. Like, okay, you have no idea what the hell is going on. If it would have started with Cate Blanchett, who actually narrates the story, that would have made more sense. You know, just like with Lord of the Rings, she's the narrator of Borderlands.
Right.
So after all, you see Roland kidnapping a teenager with the help of a reformed psycho who was institutionalized in the same facility. You really have no idea what the heck is going on, why Roland's there in the first place. You find out as the movie progresses, but again, it seemed like all of that could have been like cut because it made no sense. So now we go to the main focus of the story. Lilith, played by Cate Blanchett, she's a bounty hunter. She's contacted by this powerful corporate magnate, if you will. Think Jeff Bezos or someone of that nature, okay? Atlas is this big, he owns like all this stuff, and shows up as a hologram, you know what I mean? So he's not really there, he's hated. So, you know, you literally have people trying to shoot him at the beginning. So,
Yeah.
But they're just shooting his hologram. So, I mean, he is very clever. But, so Atlas, the powerful corporate magnate, hires Cate Blanchett, who plays Lilith, to rescue his daughter, Tina. He had to convince her because she really didn't want anything to do with it. So she returns to Pandora. That you come to find out later, it's her home planet. And the first time she's been there since a child, she has the help of Claptrap, a robot, which was mysteriously programmed to wait for her.
Oh.
So there's more on that as we go on here, Adam. I'm sure you're excited about this plot line so far.
It's fascinating.
Don't get too excited. So after realizing that Atlas wants his daughter back against her will, because she actually finds Tina with no problem because Claptrap is, you know, he's got all this information locked inside, so he can easily find someone like that. So, but she has no problem rescuing Tina. Where are you gonna?
Yeah, well, I mean, my mind's just playing Claptrap.
Yeah,
That sounds like a nickname for an STD, dude. I mean, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Claptrap.
Yeah, it's not a porno. It's not
That's that sounds like something you need to go to the doctor for.
Yeah. So he doesn't have claptrap the STD, if there is such a thing. So basically, she finds out that this daughter of his does not want to be with her dad.
Yeah.
That she actually left because she wanted to. So she teams up with them reluctantly. She's a bounty hunter, but at the same time, she's kind of doesn't want to see someone being forced to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So she decides to she reluctantly joins them. They become kind of a team, and they're attacked by the Crimson Lance, who is a private army of Atlas, apparently. Mm-hmm. That's where Roland used to be a part of, by the way.
Okay.
Because there's like some weird, he had some weird relations with one of the female members of the Crimson Lance. They didn't really get into it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of unnecessary stuff in this movie.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. Again, the whole beginning part, you're thrown in there, but you're kind of confused. Like, why the hell are they starting this movie when you have Cate Blanchett narrating? She's not even in the opening. What?
Right.
It makes no sense. But anyways, so they team up. They fight against they pretty much turn against Atlas, whom they were hired by Atlas. So this guy's just not liked at all.
Mm-hmm.
Not liked at all. So Lilith is informed that Tina was genetically engineered with biological material from the Iridians, the ancient race that once inhabited Pandora, and that Atlas believes only she can open this vault. Like throughout the point of this movie, you hear like you're a vault hunter. She goes, why do I care about the vault? She doesn't care. She doesn't care, seemingly.
Right.
She doesn't really understand all of the significance of vault hunting and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So Atlas is after this vault too, and he kind of genetically modifies this daughter of his to open the vault. So he's very, very greedy guy. I mean, he literally carbon copied a being just so he could get this vault opened. So nice guy, huh?
Yeah, nice. Very nice. Yeah, he's going places.
So she meets up. They all meet up with this weird archaeologist named Patricia Tanis, who's played by Jamie Lee Curtis. And apparently that was her foster mom, Cate Blanchett's foster mom. Earlier on, there's some rift between them. Again, the movie doesn't really explore that too much.
Mm-hmm.
So they locate this key. They've got to find this specific key to open this vault in an underground maze occupied by those psychos that Atlas somehow manipulates. Okay? Mm-hmm. They manage to take the key to the surface. Lilith destroys the device Atlas entrusted her with to signal when she had rescued his genetically created daughter. Okay? And of course, he communicates with her via robotic drone. I guess not so much hologram, but it's a drone of some kind. But he communicates with her, kind of like in when R2-D2 would beam out a message. That's kind of how he looks in there. So obviously, Atlas is not too happy with this. He still wants the girl. And, of course, Tina overhears the end of the conversation and assumes Cate Blanchett, Lilith, has betrayed her.
Mm-hmm.
So she throws a grenade, leaving her unconscious. When Lilith recovers, Claptrap, your favorite name, plays a holographic message for her recorded by her mom. Now, she thinks her mom has abandoned her the whole time. And, of course, at this point, all is revealed. She actually created Claptrap to protect her and to help her out, to serve her. And she put her in the care of Dr. Tanis, who wasn't the best stepmom, as we come to find out. But,
all right.
Because she was obsessed with archaeology. She was very weird in that aspect. So the next day, without Lilith and Claptrap, the team find the vault only to realize Atlas is waiting for them first. Dun, dun, dun.
Showdown.
So Tina's unable to open the vault, though. Now, Atlas is kind of like disappointed because he created Tina so she could open the vault. And from what Tanis has been able to come to the conclusion, if Tina is able to open the vault, she'll implode. And Atlas doesn't care because as long as the vault opens, he's fine. He doesn't care if his clone daughter dies as long as the vault opens.
Right.
Real cool guy. Apparently, after Tina is unable to open the vault, Lilith appears and explains that she is the one that can do it. So being an Iridian known as the Firehawk. So I guess that's her superhero alter ego, in a way. So Atlas threatens to kill Tina if Lilith does not open the vault. She obeys, but traps Atlas inside where a creature drags him away. And of course, they celebrate their survival. And it's a very predictable movie. No real surprises here. It was a fun one-time watch. This movie has a 0% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. I guess it's like one of the very few that has like I don't think, and it's like, okay, it wasn't a great movie, but in my opinion, I've seen a lot worse this year than that.
Yeah. I mean, it's not doing that great at the box office either. I mean,
it's got $100 million budget, and from what I understand, it's maybe
$120 million.
120.
Budget. Yeah, and we're at about $4 million right now.
Yeah, that's a pretty. It was even worse than Kevin Costner's debacle.
Yeah, what makes me wonder about this, Chris, and it's something we touched on when we talked about Five Nights at Freddy's, and what I'm noticing, especially when it comes to these video game adapted movies,
right?
The closer it relates to the actual video game, the better it is. So, perfect example would be Super Mario Brothers from 1993 with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, and Super Mario Brothers of last year.
Yeah.
All right. You watched the movie last year, and it was everything you remembered from all the games.
You felt like you were inside a real video game. Because, like we were explaining, all of these video games have a story, and it kind of followed somewhat in suit with the story. Yeah. Whereas Five Nights at Freddy's, really, I mean, other than having, these genetically modified creatures and this theme park, all that stuff was the same, but it was like a completely different story.
But PTSD, and that's what I'm getting at. Like, in the Bob Hoskins Mario, like Mario and Luigi don't look like the Mario Brothers we know from the game until the last 10 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I haven't watched it.
And you got there's a Yoshi reference, there's a but you don't really recognize the video game other than they're just like in a different world, a different dimension where dinosaurs,
right?
Kind of roam. And then compared to what we had last year, where like you said, it feels like you're in the actual video game, Sonic the Hedgehog. It was all about Sonic collecting the rings, and it did show the Greenland and you had Mr. Robotnik played by Jim Carrey. Yeah. And so it had the game, like you felt the video game that you loved in the movie, and it sounds like this, just like Five Nights at Freddy's and all the other failure video game adaptations, the ones that just kind of vaguely use the characters and then stray from the storyline of what the game and what made the game so popular is dictating if it's good or not.
Right. Yeah, and even Resident Evil, which they kind of didn't 100% adapt to the game, you still felt like it was the world. It was
Tomb Raider, when the Angelina Jolie movie that was successful because it
bombed. That one bombed too. Both of them really didn't do that well at the box office. I mean, I think the first one, it kind of broke even and made a little bit of money, and then they did the second one, which was a huge disaster.
I know the second one was. I thought the first one was better than that because
it made a little bit of money. It was still considered a disappointment.
No,
because they were trying to do an Indiana Jones thing, which is like.
But that's kind of like what the game was, though, wasn't it? I mean, as far as I know.
And I mean, I've seen people play the video game, and I didn't get an Indiana Jones vibe from it. They're both archaeologists, I guess.
Yeah.
But they tried to literally make an Indiana Jones type movie, though, and that's where I think it lost a lot of people.
Again, just like this movie, I really don't know the actual storyline of those games.
Yeah, they're pretty thick story lines for these games.
Again, just the point I'm trying to make, it seems like the ones that really kind of hold true to the actual game itself are the ones that are being more successful nowadays.
And this one, just doing the research about Borderlands, there's a ton of stuff they could have used.
Yeah.
It's like every game had its own specific story, and to me, it seemed like you could have plenty of stuff to portray on the big screen. And it's a one-time watch. Most of it's forgettable. I'm a huge Cate Blanchett fan, and she was having a good time.
Yeah.
And you're able to have fun with her, but her alone doesn't make the movie great. It's fun to watch because of her, and she can carry a movie with no problem. And she even said she had a lot of fun playing a gun-wielding bounty hunter. She goes, "This is fun." And you could tell she had fun with it. But unfortunately, the movie is very forgettable, and it's very predictable, and you know what's going to be coming around the corner. And again, it has some of the vibes, the look of the video game, and there are some characters, but the stories, Eli Roth, from what I read here, I think his assistant director, Tim Miller, I believe that's the guy's name, he had to direct a lot of the movie because he was shooting Thanksgiving at the time. So if he actually had 100% focus, maybe the movie would have been better. Who knows? Because
I'm glad he focused more on Thanksgiving than
Thanksgiving. I still have problems with, but they're both problematic movies. Again, Thanksgiving may have been better if he had 100% focused on that rather than trying to do two movies at once.
Right.
And not very many filmmakers can crank out two movies in a year. Not very many.
Not anymore. Not the way movies.
Even back then, you only had a very few that could pull it off successfully. You know what I mean? Hitchcock did it in 1954 with Dial M for Murder and Rear Window. Both came out in 1954. And you really have to think about it. Like Kurosawa did it once or twice. But it's very rare that a filmmaker can pull off two great movies in the same year. You're lucky if you can get one that's successful.
Well, the point I was just trying to make, it was easier back then because filming a movie was a lot less, I would say, complicated than it is
unless you're Orson Welles. Yeah.
I mean, even Orson Welles at the time, it was point and shoot and then cut it together. Now you have the digital aspect, the computers, there's so much more to making a movie now, and so much more that goes into it than just shoot and cut. I'm just going to point out Orson Welles real quick here because he's the only one that I know of that made shooting a movie very stressful because he innovated so many camera techniques, and it really challenged a lot of people. So it wasn't a simple point and shoot for him, but you're right. Most of them, they had a studio system. They churned them out in a certain amount of time. Right. That's why Orson Welles, they hated him, is because he did it his way, and it was difficult for the director of photography, the film editors. They had a difficult time working with him because he was a genius. He was a visionary. Same with Kubrick. They just had their own way of doing it. It was never simple for them. But you're right. They're able to most of them were able to bang out 2 or 3 movies a year because the studio's like, okay, you're hired. You got this amount of money. You got to shoot in this amount of time. That's it. Yeah.
But and now you're right. The computers, the special effects, the AI, unfortunately. But Yeah, Borderlands it strayed away from the video game, and it pissed off a lot of the diehard video game fans. So again, how many people have actually know of Borderlands to begin with? Mm-hmm. That's another thing. And there's no love or passion for the story. As I've said before, we've talked about it. That's what made the Lord of the Rings trilogy that Peter Jackson did so great, because he loved the characters.
Yeah.
But, it's like a Marvel product now. It's like churn it out. There's no love, no desire for the characters. I mean, again, Cate Blanchett is the only reason that I enjoyed the movie. I can't remember really anything else. If I didn't have like all my notes in front of me, I would have. I can't remember what I just saw.
Right.
It's a shame too, and there's another reason that this movie failed, and I've mentioned it many, many times before. I know there's people that are on the fence about going to a movie theater, and this movie maybe might have interested some people. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe. And then they announce a 4K, a special edition 4K steelbook, and a very fancy looking thing that's $36 that they can pre-order already. And this is before the movie literally came out in theaters. So that takes, you've got a smaller following to begin with. Super Mario Brothers, you have a huge following.
Right.
More people have heard about that. So maybe you can take a risk in announcing a 4K release. Mm-hmm. But with a movie like Borderlands, where only a certain amount of people know what the hell the Borderlands game is, and if I didn't look it up, I wouldn't have known it's based on a video game. Mm-hmm. So it's not top of mind. Like Five Nights at Freddy's, they actually had they waited till the movie was out for a while, and then they announced I think it was like they gave it like a few weeks before they promoted the Blu-ray and the 4K. They got to do something about that window, because you got a movie like this that maybe won't do that well to begin with, and you announce it before the movie comes out in theaters, no one's going to go. Right. And it's proven.
Yeah, I mean, it's proven, but it's just my argument every time we talk about this. I mean, it's if you're to go to a movie is so expensive unless
that's what I mean.
Unless I mean, if I go to the movies and I see Borderlands and I see Deadpool and Wolverine, I'm probably going to go see Deadpool and Wolverine.
But you know what I'm saying though. Right. I mean, thankfully this opened up a few weeks after, a couple weeks after, so some of the hype could come off of that. But again, you've got people who are like you, are kind of like apprehensive, and maybe this preview does look okay. Maybe I do want to see it. Do I want to spend $40-$50 because you got your kid that wants to go with you, or do you wait and spend $36 on a 4K, which is less expensive than going to the movies?
Right.
It's a no-brainer. Again, it's all about creating excitement about going to the theater. You can't do what they did back in the 40s. You can't make it a huge event anymore. You just can't. But you can create excitement about going to the theater. You just have to be creative about it. When you announce something that goes against your own profit, hey, the movie probably still would have been a bomb. It sounds like. But would you rather have a bomb that loses $120 million, or one that maybe, you could substantially use as a tax write-off? Maybe the movie makes $50-60 million and you're not out over $100 million. You know what I mean? It's just like you can still alleviate some of the cost loss there. The price tag.
Yeah.
And it's just unfortunate that Hollywood keeps doing this. They they could literally make more money potentially if they create excitement about going to the theater, because that's where they make most of their money back.
Yeah, and they could also cut their budget down in half, by not paying it. I can only imagine how much Jamie Lee Curtis got for this movie.
Oh yeah. Cate Blanchett at least 10-12 million.
Yeah. So
I understand that this is just one aspect of many. The cost is obviously a factor, because Godzilla minus one, $15 million budget. The movie is made like $500 million worldwide. Mm-hmm. So you can make a movie that looks like a bigger budget. You know what I mean? You can make something look bigger than what it is. Mm-hmm. But and another thing is to create excitement. Look at this is like almost a year later after Godzilla minus one came out, you have a physical media release. Mm-hmm. Talk about excitement. This is the only way you can see this movie for a year.
Right.
That's the way it should be.
I mean, yes and no, but I mean, it's how much did they even put into promotion for this movie, Chris? I didn't even know about it. You know, I mean, and that's another. You know, if the promotion department's not going to put anything into it, and it's just going to,
as I said, this was just one factor.
Yeah, I know, but if you just walk into the theater and there's a random title on the marquee.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the preview. It looks like it's a cross between Guardians of the Galaxy and Mad Max. Mm-hmm. And again, Guardians of the Galaxy, yes, successful. That's but Mad Max has a following. I mean, Fury Road was a huge surprise hit. Mm-hmm. Most of the Mad Max movies are not that successful. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're successful, but not that successful.
Yeah. I mean, again, there's so many different ways we talk about.
Well, this, there's a lot of factors. I'm just saying one of the big glaring ones, other than this is a cult. The game has a cult following to begin with. Mm-hmm. That's not like overwhelming. Mm-hmm. The big thing is you announce another way to watch the movie rather than create excitement about going to see the movie. And probably the biggest...
that goes to my point, though. That goes to promotion. Again, I mean, you can keep a movie in there, for half the summer, but if you have no promotion behind it, no one's still going to go watch it.
I mean, it was promoted. I mean, I heard there were some radio ads for it. They did like advertise it when you watched another movie. And I'm sure I don't get cable, so I don't know.
Well, I don't have cable either, but I know it's a movie we're going to be talking about in a few weeks. Beetlejuice. Dude, you can't go anywhere without seeing Beetlejuice anywhere right now.
They've really hyped that movie up. That's for sure.
I mean, but they know the movies that they want.
But Beetlejuice attracts more of an audience, and you're right. Promotion has a lot to do with it because I literally, if I didn't read up on it, I would have no idea this is based on a very successful video game franchise.
And that's where the promotion failed because they didn't capitalize on that, which is why people aren't going to see the movie because probably the gamers don't even know that there was a movie. And
the ones and the diehard followers of that
are probably
did go see the movie and they hated it.
Yeah. So
like Five Nights at Freddy's, there was a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's fans that were not happy with that adaptation.
Five Nights at Freddy's is the failure of the year as far as I'm concerned right now, because that movie was 10 years in the freaking making.
I know.
And they dropped the ball big time. That was not just a fumble. That was a fumble in the end zone touchback.
And I enjoy Borderlands more than that one.
Yeah. So I mean, Five Nights at Freddy's, that's the failure of the year as far as I'm concerned. But that's a different story. But
you can listen to our Five Nights at Freddy's because there was a better adaptation of Five Nights at Freddy's, and it was Willy's Wonderland with Nicolas Cage. That was more fun to watch, and it had more of a video game vibe to it. And
I don't even care about that. You get the hottest franchise over the last 10 years, and you fail to produce. I mean, but
it was a huge success, though.
That movie, because everybody wanted to see it, but you're not going to get a sequel out of it.
Yes, they're making one right now. I think it's supposed to be either come out next year or in 2026, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. The sequel is coming.
Well, they duped everybody then because, I mean...
Well, but that's the thing. They marketed that movie a whole lot better.
Yes.
We're talking about marketing here, and you hit up on another reason why. Mm-hmm. I hit on one reason, you hit on another. It's just there's no love for this movie. That's another thing. Again, Lord of the Rings is probably the original Superman, and Lord of the Rings are probably the best examples of love for a character. And again, Borderlands, you needed that.
Right.
Because not many people seem to know about that or care. Mm-hmm. I mean, unless you're a Cate Blanchett fan, and Cate Blanchett is definitely an acclaimed actress. I think she's the best actress out there right now. But her movies don't typically make hundreds of millions of dollars. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people thought, that was another problem is, you could have cast a younger person in the role. To me, that doesn't make a difference. You've got to have a story that someone is passionate about.
Right.
And if you don't have that passion, you're not going to have a good story. And obviously marketing wasn't really marketed well. And of course they announce another way to watch it. So why go to the theater when you could actually watch it at home? So again, they're eating their own in Hollywood right now. They literally are. And they're not going to make that much money off of it. Maybe they might make it back in streaming. Mm-hmm. Maybe Blu-ray sales, but I mean, Blu-ray and 4K sales, I mean, unless you're an avid collector, no one's going to buy it. Mm-hmm. I mean, I thought it was a cool set. It's got a kind of a cool design. I love collecting movies, but I like collecting movies I'm going to watch again. And this, I can't see myself watching again, as much as I love Cate Blanchett. And I have a lot of her films on DVD and Blu-ray, but...
Who produced this movie? What production company?
Lionsgate. Which is surprising because Lionsgate is usually a lot better than this.
Yeah, especially with the smaller movies that aren't going to make... I don't know. I mean...
There was a lot of puzzle pieces we'll never know the answers to, but you pointed out marketing, and I pointed out marketing in a different angle. Again, like if you want people to go to the theater, Adam, create excitement. Mm-hmm. Make people want to go. You can do that with this movie. There are ways, and they didn't do it. They just didn't do it. It's just unfortunate.
I mean, again, I'm trying to think. It's like, what else does Lionsgate have coming out this year? Because again, that's another factor to it too. Are they just throwing this movie out there just to throw it out there and
take on less movies? That's another thing. Take on, maybe one movie you're passionate about, and the rest, make them money movies. You have too many movies on your plate. There's a bigger potential for them to fail. That's just...
Well, I mean, that's... But if you're not working, you're not making money. It's
right. Right. Let's see. What is Lionsgate movies for 2024? Oh. Megalopolis, the Francis Ford Coppola, most of it self-funded.
Yeah.
I think Lionsgate is paying for distribution.
Okay.
So expect that movie to tank.
Probably.
Because it's a passion project for an 80-plus-year-old filmmaker. We saw how much Apple had fun with Killers of the Flower Moon. So they actually did okay. Again, most people would look at a movie that cost $250 million and it made $165 million as a huge disaster, but a movie, for Scorsese movie to make that much money is huge. But let's see, White Bird, I've never heard of it. All right, I'm going to try to see if I can find the whole listing for Lionsgate. Since you brought it up, let's see. Oh, The Crow. The Crow.
Yep.
They've had a lot of problems with that one. They're probably going to lose some money on that.
And you know what? Now that I think this is why you're seeing a movie like Borderlands, not really getting the love. They have much bigger title. The Crow, as bad as this movie's going to be,
it's more known. I mean, it has a longer history.
And they're going to put everything they have behind it.
See, The Crow, the comic book series, I think came out in late 80s. Mm-hmm. Didn't you tell me that? Mm-hmm. So you've got a 35-plus year legacy of The Crow.
Yeah.
The movies have been, other than, I mean, even that had a lot of disasters, obviously. Mm-hmm. But, they got... Next year, they've got John Wick Presents Ballerina. Okay. That was actually supposed to come out the end of this year.
Yeah.
I know there's some of them that I really don't know some of these off the top of my head, but they've got an untitled Dirty Dancing sequel they're working on next summer as well. Mm-hmm. They've got another Hunger Games movie coming out in a couple of years. And they got another Saw movie coming out next year. Mm-hmm. That's more of a Twisted Pictures production, though.
Yeah, but I mean, it's still going to be a...
Yeah, I mean, but they don't cost $120 million, the Saw movies. That's another thing.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm trying to figure out where Lionsgate's angle here is with the promotion. And
it's a riskier title because, again, not as many people know Borderlands, the video game, or the comic books, or whatever. So it was a bigger risk for Lionsgate. So better job promoting it would have clearly been the obvious answer, but I don't know. We'll never know all of the reasons. It's just we just know the story was lacking. Wasn't as much love for the film. Obviously, Eli Roth doing 2 movies at once is another problem. Mm-hmm. Announcing a physical media release before the movie even comes out, that's been a known problem, at least for this year, starting late last year. So it's been the last couple of years. The window is getting smaller between streaming and home video release. So that's a problem, though. That is still a problem. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of other things factored in, because unless you have an unlimited membership, which, again, if you have 2 people in the household that have an unlimited membership, it's at least $50 a month,
right?
Together,
yeah. And
you add the times where you pre-buy ahead of time, you've got a 50-cent surcharge on there. That adds up, so you're spending $60, $70 a year on movie stuff, and then if you want to get snacks at the movie theater, that costs a lot more too. So buying a home video release for $36. That's, in theory, probably less expensive, but I'm not going to buy a movie unless I know I'm going to watch it more than once.
Right.
You know what I mean? So, again, you're not going to get a lot of as many sales that way. So it's like, get rid of it or put it off or whatever. If you're not going to put that much into marketing, why even bother?
Again, we don't know the nooks and crannies. I mean, they could have, Chris, this could have been something as easy as... they've had the rights to the movie for 10 years and couldn't figure out a script, and they were about to lose the rights, so they just threw something out, and now they're trying to forget about it.
But yeah, I mean,
who knows?
You look at this though, and you've got too many hands in the pie. That's another problem.
Yeah,
because Lionsgate distributed it, but Summit Entertainment co-produced it along with Media Capital Technologies, Airrad Productions, Picture Start, Gearbox Studios, and 2K. That's a lot of hands in the pie.
Yeah.
So, there's a couple of screenwriters on there too. So, when you have more than 2 screenwriters, typically you're going to get a jumbled mess. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of this movie's problematic, no matter what way you look at it, and it's easy to see why it failed.
Right.
So, but if you love Cate Blanchett, I think it's worth at least a one-time watch. And it's more fun to watch these kind of movies on the big screen than it is at home, because there's more distractions at home. So Borderlands is out there. Watch it once. It's not as bad as what everyone is saying it is. You know what I mean? It's at least my take on it. It's not as bad. I've seen a lot worse this year. Go knowing you're going to see a movie that is only probably worth your time once. So Borderlands, did you see it? Did you like it? Let us know. Communicate with us through comment below on the video, or reach out through Facebook, X, Instagram @ScaredForReals is the handle.